including me, but I think now it's just possible to come in.
Yeah. I got lost in something and just doing a chant. Did not realize it was 10 o'clock already. Okay.
Namaskara, Guruji.
Namaskara. So we finished the namas Shiva and Swadhina Vallabha, and now we are going into Sumeru Madhya Shringastha. So there is a description of Shiva that I read in that description by Bhaskara Raya. So I thought I'll just read it. Don't want us to miss it. And then today, I think if we do 2 or 3 namas, that would be a lot. So I'm going to throw a lot of new technical terms and words and explanations at you. Just be prepared. So we are looking at, actually going back to look at Shiva Namam one more time. And then we'll go to Sumeru Madhya Shringastha or Sumeru Shringa Madhyastha, whichever. Both namas are valid. So I'll literally read from Bhaskara Raya's the description and translation of that. So I'll just make sure everybody is muted. Okay. Shiva, he translates it the nama as the beneficial. From the root vash, desire, Shiva is derived. That is, she is the desire itself, Icha, of the Supreme Shiva. For this, energy is worshipped by Shiva. The meaning of Shiva is given in the Shaiva Agamas as who is as a witness to the modifications of the mind, who is before the arising of such modifications, who is in the modifications about to rise, who is the cause of sensation, who is the support of all false and inert matter, who is consciousness itself, who is beloved of all, who is bliss itself, who is the means to obtaining all, who is connected with all, and the omnipresent is called Shiva. The self-shining, pure being who is devoid of the distinction of Jiva, Isha, etc., is Shiva. Just to know, it is very important to understand when we talk about consciousness being very different than the mind and the thoughts and the vrittis. We all, I do that separation, right? The body, mind, and sense complex and the consciousness. So the Shaiva Agamas actually are just, even which is the truth, but we tend to separate that for one particular conversation. And in this, they're saying who is the witness of all of the modifications of the mind, who is before the arising of such modifications, who is in the modifications about to rise, who is the cause of the sensation, who is the support of all the false and inert matter, who is the consciousness itself. So did not want everybody to miss that. Or she does good. Shiva is called as Shiva, or somebody who is beneficial, or that is which on that in which everything rests. Shete iti Shiva, or who possesses excellent qualities, or that which makes calm, samyati, as the Bharata says, because he fulfills all the actions of men, intending their good. Shiva, he is known as the Shiva. O gods, the Danavas and the Devas are the same to me. I do good, Shiva, to all beings. Here they're saying good is equal to Shiva in the brackets. So I do good to all beings, whether they are Danavas or Devas. Hence, I am known as Shiva. In Shvetashvaratara Upanishad, it says, the one who is the origin of all dwells in every womb in whom all this is involved. And Kaivalya Upanishad says, the three-eyed, blue-throated, peaceful, and this is giving the Saguna form. All this has been brought together by us in the commentary of Shiva Stotra Shatanamam, a work enumerating 100 names of Shiva. By natural purity, by possessing stainless qualities, by superiority, by supporting the universe, by conferring immortality on worshippers, by the strength of Icha Shakti or Paramashiva, thou art known by the special name as Shiva in the scriptures. Or she is identical with Shiva. In the Linga Purana says, as Shiva, so is Devi. As is Devi, so is Shiva. Hence, as the notions are the same, Devi is called as Shiva, the feminine version. In another place in the same book, in reality, there is no difference between Uma and Shankara. The one has assumed the two forms. There is no doubt in this. The Paramatman is called Shiva as well as Shiva. Suta Samhita says, O best of twice born ones, she who has assumed the energizing aspect of that Maya, which is connected with one consciousness, Chinmatra, who is intellect, without attributes, self shining, unchangeable, supreme bliss, and the cause of the destruction of samsara. She is Shiva, she is the supreme Devi, one with Shiva and doer of good. He who worships this Shankari, the ocean of mercy, who does what does he not obtain by her grace? Or Shiva may mean the wife of Vayu. In Linga Purana says, the great god Ishana, who pervades the whole universe, the supporter of all beings, is called Vayu in his aspect of wind god. His wife is called Shiva, and his son is Manojaya. Again, he who has the crescent moon as a crest is Vayu, and his wife is Shiva. In the Vayu Puranam, also we read Vayu is the fourth body of Ishana, and his wife is Shiva, and his son is Manojava, sorry. Or she who bestows salvation is Shiva. It is said in the Devi Puranam, Shiva is salvation and she bestows salvation to yogins. She works for good, Shiva. Hence, she is known by men as Shiva, or men worship Devi to reach Shiva. Hence, she is Shiva. In the Agamas, we read, as heat is to fire, as light to the sun, the moonlight to the moon, so is Shiva to Shiva. So that those two words, that namam is so powerful. Just wanted to bring you, like, there are so many meanings that have been given, so I did not want you to miss that. And the Ishana, the Vayu part, we will be talking about this if we happen to get to that part of the namas. Now, Sumeru Madhya Shringastha. So I should probably just tell you which shloka we are looking at. It is shloka 22 and the first line. There are two namas in that first line. The first one is Sumeru Shringa Madhyastha, and the second nama is Shriman Nagara Nayika. And then the second line, Chintamani Grihantastha, is one namam, and the second namam is Pancha Brahmasanasthita. So there are four namas in that shloka. If we can cover that one shloka today, I'll be elated, but I'm not in a rush. So Sumeru Madhya Shringastha is one nama. There is a variation to it. We also chant Sumeru Shringa Madhyastha. They mean approximately the same. Sorry, yeah, correct. Shriman Nagaranayika. Looks like I personally wrote down the description when I was listening to the lectures and I was doing my research. I combined the two, but there are two different namas, so we'll see how they're connected. So now we have seen that, if you remember the previous namas, so mother, we have described her from head to toe, and then we have seen her walking towards Kamesha, and there is a wedding that is happened, and they are seated in a place, right? And where is this throne located? So that's what they are describing now. So Simhasana is built in the middle apex, Madhya Shringam. Shringam is actually apex of a mountain. So Sumeru is the mountain. And in the Madhya Shringam, in the middle Shringam, middle apex, is where the Simhasana is located. Or you can actually, if you look at the other variation of the Namam, Sumeru Shringa Madhyastha. It means the same thing. In the middle apex, atop that is where the Simhasana is located. You can take this as Sumeru being a golden mountain. If you want to visualize that, that's fine. But it is not that. It is the central point from where the whole universe has manifested, and which becomes the grounding, like where everything else is fixed on, right? So what is that central point around which all the galaxies are revolving? So even if you think about our Milky Way, you see all the stars and billions of them are revolving in this one, like, one central spot, which we call as I don't know if that's called the black hole, but there are black holes. Trying to recollect if it's exactly the same, but there is a central spot, which is, yeah, it's a black hole. It's a black hole, and it actually has this absorption capacity. And the energy is so much that anything that it reaches. So this is what NASA documentaries say. So similarly, this is only for one galaxy, but what we are talking about is the whole universe and all the galaxies that exist, whatever they are revolving around, that madhya, that spot is called as the Sumeru. And the Simhasana is located atop in that location. And the description of Meru, what we call as Vyutpatvi, the definitions of each of these words. Minoti Jyotimshi iti Meruhu. Minoti is the Adhara, the establishment, the substratum, the foundation on around which all the Jyotimshi, all the galaxies, that particular part, that central part is called as Meru. So we talk about Meru mountain in the Kailash. So what they say is it's on earth, there is a vibhuti of this main Meru, which is in Mount Kailash. And that's why, like, we also see the Namam Maha Kailasa Nilaya in a future sloka. Now, looking at Sumeru from a Sri Chakram perspective. So there is a two-dimensional yantra that's called as Sri Yantra or Sri Chakra. And a three-dimensional version is called as a Meru. So I don't know if I can share my screen. I can show you what that means. Shri Meru. So just give me 1 second. I actually pulled up a few images so I can share with everybody what I mean, the Pancharudras and things like that. So this is a three-dimensional Sri Yantra, and we call this the Sri Meru. Not that there is any power difference between the two-dimensional and three-dimensional, but there is more like, practical puja reasons why I have both. So you would notice that there is this broader foundation, and then as you go towards the top, it becomes a single spot here. So I don't know if you can see a little bindu. So this is a triangle. Is a bindu here. We are talking about, and there is a central bindu. I don't know if you can see that bindu in the middle there. You would see. So what this actually represents is the Sthula form of the universe or our own body. And as we go higher up, you get into the Sukshma form of the universe, which is relevant to the Sukshma form of the body. And there are many layers to get to that. We will be reading about this as we are going through the Lalita Sahasranama namas. So this is the para, and this is the apara. This is the creator. This is the created. So this is the to be known, and this is the knowledge. So that transition is what you need to understand is if the universe started from one single dot, and we call that God's particle from the NASA documentaries, and universe has been created in order to, if there's somebody is on the path to moksha, then what they have to do is to reverse engineer the process. So what we do is here, if the universe has created itself in the clockwise direction, that is called as the Srishtikramam, is what we call it. And people who are in the path for material benefits from Sri Vidya, they do what's called as the Titikramam, and the positions and the goddesses are different. Or what we focus on is the Samhara Kramam, is on the moksha path, which actually takes us back into anti-clockwise direction, starting from the Sthula towards the Sukshma. So atop this Bindusthanam.
Guruji, can you repeat it once again? I was a little lost there.
Okay,
Srishtikramam, Mukti.
Srishtikramam, Sthitikramam, and Samhara Kramam is what we call it. So Srishtikramam is how the universe got created, right? From the small little, the one God's particle came the whole universe into existence. And we call this the Bhupuram, or the created manifested universe. So from here came everything. And people who are looking for, not everybody needs to think like, I need moksha in this janma, right? So people are looking forward to a better janmas next time, or I want to do punya karyam so I can get a better life in the future, in this janma or maybe in the future births. So what they do is called as the sthiti kramam of Sri Vidya Upasana or the puja for the Meru. And people who are on the path to moksha, they do what's called as the samhara kramam, which is exactly the reverse of what is in the sthiti kramam. If things have started from a top here, and there are all these positions and everything, which I won't get into now. So from here came the whole universe in a clockwise spiral, just imagine in that sense. Then what needs to happen for somebody who wants to get back to the Bindusthanam need to go in the reverse order. So a reverse spiral that goes upwards. And what do you see there in that Bindusthanam is where the Simhasanam is located. So you will also notice when we say Shringa Madhyastha, they say Meru has 3 Shringas, right? And she is in the Simhasanam is in the middle Shringam. You would see this triangle. It's 3-dimensional, so it's probably a little difficult to comprehend, but there is a triangle here, and which is the representation of this triangle on the 2D version. So these 3 are the Icha, Jnana, Kriya Shaktis in those spots. So the whole universe started manifesting itself out because of the Icha, Jnana, Kriya Shaktis, right? So the first there is the God's particle, and because of the Icha, Jnana, and Kriya, the universe has started manifesting. So the first step in creation, in Srishti Kramam, would be those 3. And then comes everything else. So what we are trying to say is those are the 3 Shringas atop which this Bindusthanam, and on the Bindusthanam is the Simhasana. There is another meaning to it. And this is more of the visualization from the Brahmanda Purana. So Vishwakarma, sorry, go ahead.
Guruji, sorry, I am completely lost here. So when we talk about, I'm trying to associate the spiral to the Meru as well. So,
okay.
So are we saying the top of the spiral, if I'm imagining a funnel, the top is the bindu and the bottom is the base? Or so when you say reverse engineering, I'm kind of lost. Am I even visualizing this correctly?
So don't think about it like a funnel perspective. So okay. You have to invert the funnel.
Okay.
So that's why I actually pulled up the visual, so it kind of makes sense. So, or you can think about it as the universe and the creation, or maybe even if we look at this in a 2-dimensional Sri Chakra, maybe that would help. Let me just pull it up. Let's see.
So the wider portion is the base, the bigger base, and then the narrow portion of the funnel is the bindu. Is that correct?
Correct. Oh,
So
very
ultimately
small
we're
one.
going to reach the top, which is the bindu.
Correct.
That is the samhara kramam that we talked about, the moksha path, correct?
Correct. Correct. So if this is the God's particle, we'll use that term, so it's easy. From the bindu, manifested the universe, and it won't go in one direction, right? Like anything that blows like this, like throughout, 360 degrees.
Mm.
So there are all of this creation that has happened in a clockwise direction. This is what would be the creation. So any manifested universe is in the bhupuram. This is the sthula form of who we are. So if we are in the moksha path, then what has to happen, logically speaking, is that I have to take an anti-clockwise path that will take me to the center. Did that make sense?
Kind of.
Okay. So
Sorry,
I will
Guruji.
probably explain
Sorry.
this a little. Go ahead, Anita.
When you say anti-clockwise, like what
Yeah, that's what I
exactly
think.
is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
meaning?
That's what I think. I was missing
Thank
that
you.
piece, so I will explain that. So think about it. From the God's particle came the Pancha Mahabhutas, and then came the elements, the Tanmatras, the Jnanendriyas, the Karmendriyas, and the Sthula Sharira, right? We were talking about the Panchakoshas. Think about it from, does everybody remember the Panchakosha concept? They're all connected. No matter how many ever analogies, how many ever visuals we take, everything is speaking about the same thing. So you have to kind of connect all of those together. So let's just look at Panchakosha. Let's just look at a visual there. Yeah, maybe this one. I think I've taken a thumbnail too. Sorry. Are you able to see what I'm sharing?
Yeah, Guruji.
Yes.
Okay. So I was thinking like I probably was just showing a black screen and trying to explain concepts. Okay. So in inner Atman, and there are all of these layers that are built around it, right? When the universe had to manifest, from this inner concept came everything else as the Sthula Sharira. Now, as a Jivatman, if I am here and I live in this gray area, the Jivatman area, then what I need to do is to go inwards. So I have to get rid of firstly, like, my ego, like, my raga dveshas, again, going back to what Shankaracharya has talked about, the shatka sampatti, the mumukshutvam, viveka, vairagya, and all of those things. So getting in control of our mind, getting in control of our indriya, shama, dama, shraddha, samadhana, dhyana, be able to focus and ground ourselves so much that we are actually going deeper into the koshas, which is what this path actually shows. So let me just close this, maybe this one. So this path actually teaches us in different ways. One, in a puja format, that you're actually doing the pujas, and there are devis assigned in a lot of these places. So meditating and praying to, like, doing puja to each of those devis, and there are namas to that devi, like, Sparsha Karshini, Rupa Karshini, Rasa Karshini, Gandha Karshini. These are all the pancha tanmatras. So they're all situated in these petals and then the triangles. So what happens is, by moving from one layer to the other, so if I'm going in a reverse fashion, so we start from here, and somewhere here we get to this one would be the Sabda Karshni, Rupa Karshni, Rasa Karshni, Gandha Karshni, Chitta Karshni. So what happens is, the universe created in a way that we are actually getting all of those tanmatras. But what this helps us, there is a meditative way we call it as the Antaryagam. and there is a puja format that we call as the Bahiryagam. So in those paths, it helps us move beyond or move past all of these, the body being focused, or we being focused on each of these layers, and slowly it helps us to get to the Anandamaya Kosha. I don't know why this is kind of a reverse thing. Annamaya Kosha is here and Pranamaya Kosha is here. I would think, no, it's the other way around. Anandamaya Kosha is the deepest of the layers. This is a wrong image. Anyway, you get the concept that going from, from my Annamaya Kosha, this body that is just purely dependent on food and water and shelter and everything, those are my primary focuses. When I think about maintaining my body, I need this, I need this, I need this. There's a whole list, right? A shopping list. And then how do I go into the next, the Pranamaya Kosha, which is where we actually practice a lot of breathing exercises, and how do we control the pranas. And we talk about the 5 pranas, the prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana, but there are many other 5 pranas as well. So we use so lots of techniques to go through the Pranamaya Kosha. And then mind control, because with the breathing exercises we control mind. Even Bhagavad Gita says the same thing. So the Manomaya Kosha gets in control, and that's when the Vijnanam can be ingrained. So the Vijnana Kosham is you're reaching that layer. We were talking about that intellectual understanding versus, I don't want to call it experiential understanding, but there is no better term that's coming to my mind right now. It is intellectually, I can say, yeah, Aham Brahmasmi and I'm good. And I'm also not trying to prove that I am God, which is the unfortunate, misinterpreted, a very bad interpretation of the Aham Brahmasmi. What we are trying to do is to associate, to understand the inner Brahman that has created the universe and seeing him within us. So going deeper into those levels to reach that ultimate bliss, the Satchidananda Brahman. Did that make sense?
Traversing towards the center of the, if I actually visualize it, towards the center of the body, but the Paramatma is outside layer, right?
So that's why I'm saying this is a wrong visual. Unfortunately, we'll just find a better one.
Preeti, I think both the images are right, isn't it? Because when we reach that Paramatma stage, it's not like concentrated, like it's expanding. So it comes outside
Correct.
the body.
Astral
Right?
expansion. Yes,
Yeah.
astral expansion. What we say, this is the other side of it. Once you reach inside, then your vision of yourself is going to be astrally expanding.
Right. So all the layers will be expanding compared to our Annamaya Kosha. So I think that's why both the images are right. I see both the images everywhere.
Yeah, I know both images are right, but what I'm trying to explain now is very specific to, I think, going deeper inside, then you will see that expansion
okay.
happen.
Another thing is the swastika. Swastika, I will explain that clockwise creation and the anti-clockwise distraction, right?
Correct. Yeah, that also does that. And that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, all of this is trying to teach us the same thing. So think about this visual.
Huh.
So from the Annamaya Kosha, we are moving to the Pranamaya Kosha. So we are not thinking subtle. I'm not thinking about, what do I need to eat in the afternoon? And my son actually, laughs whenever he comes here. So I make some breakfast for him in the morning, and then I ask him, what do you want to eat in lunch? And then while we are eating at the table, I tell him shall we make this for dinner? So he also always says Mom, can we have any other topic other than what you will feed me? So the mind is focused on, I need a better job. I need a better car. I'm not able to meet my friends during COVID. Your thoughts are very much to please the senses and the body. The body doesn't require, the body is not looking for pleasing. The sense organs are what's looking for pleasing themselves and the mind. So that's where the focus is on. But if you move towards prana, just focus on a 2-minute just concentrated breathing. That actually changes the perception of who you really are, because this actually feels very menial. It's not even something to be considered and needed. So the pranamaya kosha, then once you start doing that, your mind goes, their mind gets regulated. So Sheshaji was talking about some 60,000 thoughts in a day. Now, how many of those thoughts are in your control versus how many are happening involuntarily, and how many are inadvertent errors, like, wrong thinking, that thoughts that you don't want generally if you were to given control of that. So that is going into the manomaya kosha. Then you go a little deeper when you start putting, when you start controlling those thoughts, when you're in control of that, then your thoughts get more purified. And then as you purify your thoughts, your intellect, or the vijnanam, you shouldn't call it intellect, vijnanam is increasing, which will help us understand the essence of this whole creation, the consciousness, which is the Anandamaya Kosha. And once you reach that stage, then we are talking about the Sachidananda Brahman. So there is so much Ananda, it's pure bliss. So therefore it is called the Anandamaya Kosha. And to Satiji's point, once you reach there, your world is not limited to me and my house and my family, me and all of this, because this is, you're still your family is because you have a body. You are born as this person, therefore you have a husband, your child, children, and your family members. But once you get to that bliss, the whole universe is yours. So they talk about the astral expansion, that is one part of it, but even the thought process of who is considered family or who is considered closely connected to you, that expands just exponentially, like there is no limit to it. So this is what we are talking about. There is a concept of creation. From this came the universe. And if we have to go backwards to the moksha, to be in that blissful state, then reverse engineering is going from the Annamaya Kosha to Anandamaya Kosha is what needs to happen. Did that make sense?
Okay.
Complex?
So the bindu is in the, if I in this diagram, if I have to visualize it, it's in the Anandamaya Kosha.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought the Anandamaya Kosha is the causal body, right?
Causal body, yeah.
So it's not the Bindu. Bindu is the Om.
Turiyam, yeah.
Yeah.
And in Sri Vidya, we actually use fifth state, a Turiyatita state, and we call it the Anugraham. So that's why I was just keeping it at that. Satiji will and in the next where we talk about the Amnayas, I was going to bring up those 5 concepts, because in general terminology we only say Srishti Sthiti Samhara. In Lalita Sahasranamam, we will be talking about 2 more layers to it, called as Thirodana and Anugraha, and just need to understand what those concepts mean.
Okay, thank you.
Guruji, like this is kind of like too intense. I'm just thinking as we are going, like, is it when the yoga they say the third eye, like you focus on the third eye, right? Is it anything related there, or like that's totally different?
That's related to.
Okay.
So there are, how do I say it? So the Ajna Chakra meditation, and we are going to look at it that the Bindu Sthanam in us, when we talk about the Shumeru Shringam in our body, as I mentioned, right, like there is the whole universe creation that you can look at it, like, Lalita Sahasram meanings have the universe meaning, the mother as the physical form. We talk about that. We talk about our own body as the Sri Chakram. And there is the Sri Chakram, there is a mantra format. So there are many different layers of meanings, and dhyana is a big one. So Ajna Chakra meditation helps activate a few nadis in that area. And 3 glands, hypothalamus, pituitary, and pineal glands. And it creates a sensation of bliss. But there is, to Satiji's point, people have to go beyond that bliss, this is the temporary sensation, which is the Anandamaya Kosha, towards the Turiyam. And then there is the Turiyatita and the Anugraham that happens afterwards. They're all connected. And at any given point, if you feel like this is way too intense and we don't need it, we will want to learn 1 or 2 concepts of Lalita Sahasranam. I'm absolutely happy to just do that. I don't want to complicate understanding for anybody.
No, it's good, Guruji, to know, like, absolutely. Like, I'm enjoying it. I'm just like trying to connect everything to see how it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
and like
And the
trying
question for
to.
everybody, Anita ji, just like, when I say something, I did not mean about the Agna Chakra question. I meant if it is too intense, then we'll probably go with the simpler meanings first and then come back and look at this as a whole once we have done the full Lalita Sahasranama meanings. There are different ways to learn it, right? It's not that I'm just sharing, and this group, like, is very knowledgeable. So I felt I could just go a little deeper into a few concepts. So this Nama, and yeah, even the Srinagaram, that is my favorite one.
Riji, what's the connection between the Sushumna and this Sumeru? Is there any connection or not?
They're all connected.
Okay.
Sumeru Dandam. Meru Dandam is the spinal cord.
Sushumna, that's the Sushumna Nadi, right?
No, the spinal cord, the full spinal cord. And Sushumna is just one nadi in the spinal cord, right? And the nadi Sahasrara Chakra is the Bindusthanam. So we will be connecting in our body this Bindu to Sahasrara. And each of these layers are individual chakras in the body. And when we are going through this path, those chakras, need to activate, and lots of other exercises that need to happen.
I think Sushumna
Like,
Nadi is right at the tip of the heart. That's what I heard. Isn't that different,
So
Guruji?
It starts from the base, the
Muladhara Chakra.
Muladhara Chakra, and
The
there are
Muladhara
many
Chakra.
nadis, like in the whole spinal cord, there are many, many nadis. And in those, there are two, there is that visual that actually is the medical symbol, like, the two snakes and that
Ida
one.
and Pingala, right? Ida and Pingala, that both.
Yeah, Ida and Pingala actually cross paths like this in those chakras, and there is the Sushumna Nadi in the center. So when you're breathing today, just take a couple minutes, and we keep talking about this meditation and just trying to sit down for 2 minutes and just observe the breathing patterns. Note that both nostrils don't breathe at the same time with the same depth. One is more active than the other. So it is which nadi is active at any given point. So if Ida is active, then it is your left nostril that you will feel more breathing is happening, and the right nostril is dormant. And if it is Pingala Nadi, then it is your right nostril that is more active and left nostril is dormant. And there is variation in yogic books on how frequently this changes. They usually say about 40-minute cycles. Ida is active and Pingala is active for 40 minutes. But between these two, there is a 4-minute central breathing, which is the Sushumna Nadi, through which we will be breathing. So and your people who do sadhanas, they would be able to do mental changing between Ida and Pingala, and based on a certain type of activity. If you're doing a creative activity, you can activate that particular nadi, Ida nadi, and then be creative. If you are doing some other work, and they are connected to the sun and moon, the cooling of the body and the heating up of the body. So if you're doing more adrenaline related work, then you want your Pingala Nadi active at that time. If you're doing meditation, then you want your Sushumna Nadi active at that time. So there are all of these sadhanas that only probably will confuse everybody and scare everybody from next week. So just want to make sure that I am only speaking to those points that are interesting to the whole group. And you can tell me, it's for you to extract what you want to extract out of me and what mother wants me to share. I am just an instrument passing information, like just the messenger.
While this is all deep, Guruji, I think it's great learning. So please continue. It's my humble opinion.
Yes, I agree too.
Yeah, me too, Guruji. Guruji, one more question. I don't know, like when we say about the triangle and the point, is it like like a whole body. I'm visualizing a whole body in this chakra forms, right? So the Om, does it come like back to the pituitary and the pineal glands, or like
Correct.
does it start like from that, right?
Correct. Yes, it
Okay.
is. So
Okay.
this is not pituitary gland. This is the area in which the whole, all of those glands are located. So we call this like the Mahakameshwari, Mahavajreshwari, and Mahabhagamalini.
Mm-hmm.
So we this point and the 2 points beside. So there is a triangle, you focus on a triangle in this area, and then you visualize it. And because you're activating that whole area, note this, if you have pain in a certain space, you're cutting a vegetable and you cut your finger, how your mind actually, the whole body seems to be concentrating on that one location. Do you ever feel that? Similarly, focusing in one place, you're activating that location. So there is healing powers in it. It self heals itself. And a lot of the stuff happens within our bodies. So what this does is to activate those specific points, and each of these are connected to different points in the body. And all of this requires it's a full-time job, to be honest. Um, so concentrating, this triangle, and important to note that it has to be done in a sequence. And they very specifically say, do it under guidance. Don't try it on your own. There is a warning that goes with it. Because without controlling a lot of other things, what we were talking about, the Annamaya Kosha, controlling diet, controlling so many other aspects of life, just doing that will probably not result in the exact results that, what's expected results versus the achieved results may be very different. There is a delta. So understanding, and there is no rush. When we are talking about activating things like this, don't rush it. If people say there could be, negative impact, whether they are completely wrong, I don't think so. I have seen a couple examples. Not that people will go mad or anything like that, but without, you're talking about samhara kramam here, at least I'm talking about that. And sometimes I keep thinking, maybe when I'm doing these classes, I should be talking about sthiti kramam, because most of us need that sthiti anyway. We are living human beings, and we need to survive in this world. And that's why people used to teach these to those who come to them very specifically, and they would just check, okay, do check boxes, did you do this, did you do this, did you do this? Yeah, you are now ready to athato brahma jignasa in Brahma Sutras, right? Now that you're prepared, now that you have done all of these things, you can do this. And that's when they used to give the Brahma Vidya, because knowing that without all the steps that need to be taken, you may not be prepared for certain things. But what we are trying to learn is in preparation to all of those. Think about this as your step one, and that's what I keep asking. Do we do sthiti kramam or do we do samhara kramam, now that you know those two terms? But this is an internal conflict I keep having, maybe I should just focus on sthiti, which is material benefits, and progress punyam and whatnot, which is progress towards spirituality, and to moksha paths. Everything is spiritual. Just want to make sure what the composition of this group is and what's the requirement, but don't go start practicing without the first step. Try to observe your the do pranayama, do breathing exercises, observe your breath, control your mind, see, observe your thoughts. And then at one point, my Guruji would have said, in a week, observe the number of thoughts that you think you can put it into. And, obviously we don't say categorize, but put it into good thoughts, bad thoughts, wasteful thoughts, or unnecessary thoughts, and, what I want to do thoughts. No, I am glad I'm thinking about this, versus, yeah, these are good thoughts. Sure, I'm wishing something well for somebody. bad thoughts, the opposite of that, and unnecessarily, like, okay, what is Kareena Kapoor's last, like, husband's name? Completely unnecessary for me. So control the mind, observe the mind, maybe not even control, observe the mind, observe the breath, and try to understand, see as the Sakshi. Try to get into observing what the Atman is observing. So be the observer, not the observed. Oh, we are at 10:45 or 10:48.
Very beautiful, Guruji. Thank you.
So nice. So you said good, bad, waste, and what was the fourth one again?
I need to think about this. This is what I should have thought. If all 60,000 of my thoughts were like this, that would be helpful. And to me, that's, on the moksha path.
Correct.
I'm very particular about what my thoughts are and what I eat, what I see, what I watch, who I associate with. Everything is very regulated. Without that kind of, a check on oneself, I could be, staggered and all over the place.
So is it like a productive thoughts?
Productive could be, oh, if I wake up at 4 in the morning and if I wash my dishes, I'm productive, right? What we focus on are a little different. For example, if I'm doing my antaryagam, which is, going that inwards, and then if I spend an hour in antaryagam and 20 minutes listening to some songs I really don't care about, I could have done that 1 hour, 20 minutes versus the 20 minutes. So, every minute actually counts significantly, because once you know how much there is to learn, and we only have a very short amount of time, the most valuable thing that you will feel is every second matters.
Thank you.
I don't know if I scared everybody with this.
Yeah. Do you think it is
Not even
possible?
going to not going to share this recording with everybody.
I think it is possible, like, to control your thoughts in that sense.
And it takes all of this practice, right?
Okay.
And that's why we do the Bahiryagam, and the combination of a lot of studies and understanding the Brahma Vidyas, doing those meditations, and it doesn't come in one day. And do you, like, if I am there, I probably am at a 5% or something like that, and takes many, many years for us to practice.
Right.
Basically, like regulating, like little by little, you try to filter, right, Guruji? Like, I was just thinking of the example of a gas cylinder, whether I'm making sense or not. Like how we release the gas, based on that only the stove burns. So that's how we keep regulating and like removing the unwanted things. Beautiful, Guruji.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Exactly. And what is required to survive versus how much we are, what's required, no, really, just think about food. What's really required for somebody to consume in order to live their life and be alive versus what we do, whether it's restaurants, and not that that shouldn't be done. And that's where I think the distinction or the differentiation is, there is a serious sadhana for a certain aspect, like, what you want to achieve, versus a regular, generally being regulated, you can be holistically healthy, your mind is healthy, you have material benefits, and all of that is required, and just going to that next level, and that is for fewer people and not for everybody, because there are all of these things that get, like, I would have deleted my whole, like, 1200 songs worth of iTunes some 10-11 years ago, just in one day, click delete and be done. Not that everybody needs to do it. Do I listen to a few songs? Sometimes, like, my son plays a song and I'm like, can you put that on repeat? I like that. It's not that I don't enjoy my life. I eat lots of ice creams with my family and I do a lot of things. But when it comes to being regulated, when I am doing in the middle of sadhana, you will see me in a completely different role. And what I eat, what I listen to, even the water we drink, we do the abhimantranam for it. Like, there is a mantra that we chant to make sure the water is purified, because even water has thoughts. Just consciousness is everywhere. And if water is like, as Sadhguru says, like, if water is flowing through all of these pipes and whatnot, it is carrying lots of thoughts, and there are tangible impurities in it, and there are intangible impurities in it. So, sorry, I'm just going off. I think there was a lot of digression. Don't mean to scare anybody, but we'll try to focus on Sthiti Kramam and then just add a bit of concepts on the Samhara Kramam as well. But I don't want to miss out on not explaining Sri Chakram and how it actually is internalized within the body, because that's the main part of Lalita Sahasranamam. As I was saying, Lalita Sahasranamam has the Paramatman aspect as well as the sadhanas to get there. And Vishnu Sahasranamam is the deepest Vedantic philosophy of who the Paramatman is. And so this is steps that you need to take to reach that in a way.
Guruji, before you conclude, sorry. Before, like some people have like the Sri Chakram, like as in 2D form and 3D form. So is there a difference? Like, because like I have the Devi's photo along with the Sri Chakram. So is there something like when you keep the 3D form, like it's different or anything like
No. No, there is no difference. It's more practical. Practically, when we do puja, there is a slight difference between when you do it on a 2D versus a 3D. So if I want to do flowers, and I actually do gold flowers, and they won't sit on my 3D version. So I do it on my 2D yantra, and I do the kunkam puja on the 3D yantra. Apart from like practical differences, the effect of the Sri Chakram is no different. And you don't even need a Sri Chakram, because the Sri Chakram is really in our body.
our body? No. In the temple, always I've seen the Sri Chakram is like the 3D form is always filled with kumkum, right? Like,
Yeah.
is there any particular thing like for that significance?
Kunkam is used because that has elements that activate the Agnya chakra, and like in most of the chakras, that's why we actually put the botu, right? Because it has subtle, I don't want to call it like, there is a biochemical changes that happen when we are doing all of these sadhanas, and having the kunkum in the Agnya chakra, the nadi that passes there, there is a biochemical change that is expected to happen. So that's why we do the kunkam puja to Sri Chakram and use that kunkam to put it on our face. Apart from that, the chakra is not different between the 3D and the 2D. It is just the manifested, like, how we want to see it. And there is a practical reasons why. And in temples, because of the 2D is so small, not everybody can see it because everybody is far from the Garbhagraham. That's why we put the 3D, so it's easily visible to everyone.
Thank you. Sorry, Guruji, one more off the question. My mother-in-law always says not to keep the bindi long. She always says keep a round bindi. So is there any significance in this? But because like that's how we keep it, or it's like sorry, totally unrelated question, but like
no, not at all, not at all. Not at all. There is a like sampradayam difference. Other than that, it is the kunkumam that, like, I personally would not have thought about this as like, activating anything differently or anything like that. And probably you should just ask her and let me also know, and then let the group also know if there is anything. There is a sampradayam difference. That's to that extent is what I know, and I belong to all sampradayams.
Thank you.
I do have a question, but I see that it is too late today. But I will post, and I'll ask you the question and you can answer it next class.
Okay.
I have a couple of Sri Chakra yantras. So one of them is small and a foil. And I placed my Meru on top of the Sri Chakra on the foil. And I wasn't sure if there was a particular position they should be aligned with the chakra on the yantra and the chakra and the meru. If the angles and the vertices, the little edges, if they should be in a specific position, because someone said that they have to be aligned, and I wasn't sure if there is such a thing. Would you please
Yeah, sure. Like
explain it
depending
next.
on how small your yantra is on the top of, like, if you have a very small yantra and you're keeping Mahameru on top of it, it is very difficult to align the corners and everything, right? But the most important thing to do is to face the triangle, this triangle. The apex should be facing you. That's the most important thing. And also when you have Sri Chakras, just make sure all of these points are very sharp and not blunt. And in many of the machine cut Sri Chakras, they don't come out very nicely. For all practical purposes, if they are exactly the same size, if it's like 3 inch by 3 inch or 4 inch by 4 inch or 2 inch by 2 inch, they kind of sit nicely on each other. So a little here and there may be okay, because we can't see the bottom to put it very precisely. But if they're of two different dimensions, I think all of that won't even make sense, right? So I don't know what the
Mine
dimensions
is the
are like.
same dimensions, so I should probably make sure that the edges are aligned at least.
Yeah. So if you keep your central triangle facing towards you and you know exactly in both, like when you keep the yantra, make sure that this triangle, all of these triangles are exactly aligned to you.
Mm.
And then you put the Meru on it and see the same thing, then everything else should align.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll conclude. My class, next class starts at 11 o'clock. Bhaskarji, I'll read your question and I'll post it in the group. And now I'll conclude with a short prayer. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु. Sarvam Sri Paradevatarpanastu. Thank you so much for your time, and sorry I've taken up like almost 14 extra
Thank you.
minutes. Apologies
Thank
for
you,
that.
Guruji.
Can you please post the
Thank you,
recordings,
Guruji.
Guruji? I go back and listen to it. And then last week's also, I missed last week. So if you could post it, I would really appreciate it, Guruji.
Will do.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
Thank you so much, Guruji.
Thank you.
Dhanyavadaha.
Dhanyavadaha.
Namaste. Thank you, Guruji.
Dhanyavadaha.
Thank you, Guruji.
Namaste. Thank you.